Today I'm going to talk about the reasons people are leaving Denver. So the first reason people are leaving Denver is traffic. Traffic in any major city is always going to be a concern. I used to live in Atlanta, and Atlanta traffic, in my opinion, is a lot worse than Denver. And I've also experienced Chicago traffic, which was probably the worst traffic I've ever experienced. So I think it's all going to be about perspective. And if you're a Denver native, you probably think it's bad compared to what it used to be. Like most major cities, Denver traffic tends to be at its worst during rush hour, which is 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. on weekdays. I-25 runs north and south through Denver and can get pretty congested at the intersection of I-70 and I-25, the area just north of the University of Denver, as well as the intersection of I-25 and I-225 near the Denver Tech Center. You do have other alternative routes going north-south like Colorado Blvd and Federal Blvd, but those can get pretty congested during rush hour as well, so they may not necessarily be faster than the interstate. But there are alternatives if you want to avoid I-25 north and south through the city. I-70 runs east and west through the city and will get pretty backed up from the intersection of I-25 all the way to its intersection of I-225 at the Pena Boulevard exit that takes you to the airport. I definitely recommend avoiding that area during peak commute times if you can, but if you are needing to get out to the airport during those peak commute times, make sure you check your app for travel times so that you give yourself plenty of time to get there. The light rail is always a great alternative to commuting by car during peak commute times. It serves a significant portion of the Denver metro area with lines reaching most suburbs and neighborhoods. And during peak times, the trains run frequently and are pretty reliable as far as on-time performance goes. Highway 36, which connects Denver with Boulder, can also experience heavy traffic during peak rush hour and on weekends. There have been plans to have the light rail connect all the way to Boulder for some time now, but it hasn't happened yet. Right now, your only public transportation option is taking a bus from Union Station to Boulder, which takes about 45 minutes. The plan is to eventually have the B line go all the way from Union Station to Longmont and Boulder, but as of now, it only goes as far as Westminster. The light rail system here is a reliable alternative, but there's definitely an ongoing need for improved public transportation that connects Denver to more communities. Another thing I want to mention is that traffic isn't just a Denver problem. Traffic going I-70 west into the mountains can get really backed up on the weekends as people are trying to head out of town to go skiing or go hiking. Most locals know better to get on I-70 west on a Friday evening because you will inevitably get stuck in traffic, and returning on Sunday afternoons and Sunday evenings is really bad as well. So I recommend, if you're local, try avoiding the mountains altogether on the weekend. Get there on the weekdays if you can. If the majority of your availability is on the weekends, maybe try to head out on a Wednesday evening or a Thursday morning and come back Sunday morning or maybe even Monday. I would definitely recommend avoiding I-70 east from the mountains into Denver on Sundays. So in conclusion, traffic is not as bad as other cities, but it's still challenging during rush hour and heading into the mountains for a weekend getaway. So you just have to have good planning and good awareness of alternate routes. Also, have a map in your car or have your routes programmed into GPS, because if you're driving to a mountain location and then you try to navigate somewhere else, you might not have a signal at all and you won't know where to go. Before we get to the second reason people are leaving Denver, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up to give this video a like, and then hit that subscribe button. The second reason people are leaving Denver is the cost of living. Denver is known for having a relatively high cost of living compared to other cities, so it can be challenging to buy a home here, but it's not impossible. I recently posted a couple of videos of how much you need to make to live in Denver and affordable ways to find your home on a budget, so make sure you check those out. Over the last 10 years, Denver has had an average home appreciation rate of around 8%, and even over the past year as interest rates have risen and inflation was high, Denver still had an average home appreciation rate of 4%. A common theme that I'm hearing from my clients who are moving to Denver is that they want to rent for a little while, wait out the higher interest rates, figure out exactly where they want to be, and then buy when rates come down some. But if you consider how inflation has increased over the past few years, that means the value of your dollar has decreased. So if you're holding on to a down payment, not only has your money lost value, but you've also missed out on the equity that you would have received from real estate appreciation. So given those facts and all the data that supports the prediction that home values will keep increasing, and the data that supports that home values will keep increasing because inventory remains low, which is the law of supply and demand, if you want to live in Denver or surrounding areas, getting into the real estate market sooner rather than later is a great idea in my opinion. And if you don't know where you want to live yet, I can help you with that. So call, text, or email me and let's schedule a time to talk about it. That brings me to the third reason people are leaving Denver, which is housing. housing. Now, more and more people are getting out of Denver and moving farther west into some mountain towns outside of Denver. Since a lot of work has gone remote, more and more people have the opportunity to work from home, so they're taking that opportunity to move out of the city and live a quieter life in the mountains. Even if you still have to commute 1 or 2 days a week, you're only looking at a 40-minute drive to Denver from Evergreen, or a little over an hour to get from Bailey and Pine to Denver. While real estate in these areas still isn't going to be cheap, you do tend to get more bang for your buck in terms of square footage as well as acreage. I pulled some comparisons here to show you dollar for dollar what you get in Denver versus Evergreen, Bailey, and Pine. Here's a 2,071 square foot home in Denver listed for $850,000. It has 4 beds, 2 baths, and sits on 0.15 acres. It's a super charming Victorian built in 1890. And here's what you can get in Bailey, Colorado for the same price. It's 2,408 square feet, 3 beds, 3 baths, and sits on just over an acre of land. This home is newer. It was built in 2021. It has some great finishes and gorgeous views. Now let's look at a couple of comparisons in the $900,000 price range. This ranch-style home in the highly desirable neighborhood of Sloan's Lake is 2,284 square feet, has 3 beds, 2 baths, and sits on 0.15 acres, and it's listed at $900,000. While this 3,390 square foot home in Pine has 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, and sits on almost 4 acres. Now let's look at a couple of homes priced at the $1,450,000 price mark. This home in Denver is 3,216 square feet, 4 beds, 4 baths, and sits on 0.19 acres. This is in the Montclair neighborhood, and it's a very nice area, but for the same price, you can get this 4,395 square foot, 4 bed, 4 bath home that sits on 1.35 acres in Evergreen. So you can see why there's a trend of people relocating from Denver to mountain towns amid the flexibility of remote work. You're still close enough to the city if you need to be in town a couple of days a week, but you also get to experience the serenity of mountain living. And this is a big draw for a lot of families. Now, having said that, living in a more remote location isn't going to be for everyone. It's a totally different lifestyle and pace, so make sure you really think about it before you uproot from the city, and then give yourself time to adjust to your new surroundings and routines, because it can be more of an adjustment than you think. The housing market in Denver is fast-paced and competitive, so as a buyer, it's important to have an advisor on your side. That's my role. I'm helping you figure out where you want to be, what location fits your lifestyle and budget best, and I'm your fiduciary guide throughout the home buying process. So be sure to call, text, or email me as you prepare to relocate, and I will make it as seamless as possible for you. And do me a favor, if you're finding this content helpful, hit the thumbs up to give this video a like, and then hit that subscribe button. The 4th reason people are leaving Denver that I touched on a little bit before is the ability to work remotely. The pandemic accelerated the adoption of remote work practices. Many organizations in Denver and beyond have come to recognize the benefits of remote work, which is allowing more and more people the option of continuing to work remote post-pandemic. This gives people the ability to move away from the city and live in more remote locations. Now, in the past, it wouldn't have even been possible to work from these more remote locations, but since most mountain towns now have access to Starlink, you do have the ability to have a high-speed internet connection that wasn't necessarily available in years past. Most mountain towns west of the Front Range have a lot of great coffee shops and pubs to work from as well. So when you do want to get out of your house and be around people, places like Evergreen, Nederland, Idaho Springs, Lions, and Estes Park have a lot of options with great vibes that are going to be conducive to remote working. The migration pattern from Denver to mountain towns has seen a notable uptick, and this is largely fueled by the increasing prevalence of remote work opportunities, as well as the desire to escape the urban hustle and bustle in favor of a more relaxed, outdoor-centric lifestyle that you'll find in Colorado's mountain communities. If you're considering leaving Denver for a mountain community, I'm here to help you find your mountain dream home. One of the specialties of my team is that we understand how different the dynamics are when you're buying a mountain property, so make sure you call, text, or email me when you're ready to make the move. And if there's any other mountain town or city in Colorado you'd like to know more about, comment below and I will make a video on it. The 5th reason people are leaving Denver is that they are looking for a more sustainable lifestyle. I think another post-pandemic thing that's kind of stuck with a lot of us is that we all saw how quickly the grocery stores were running out of food, how expensive eggs got, and it was kind of a wake-up call that it's important to consider what life would look like if something like that happened again, and how important it is to be prepared if there is a crisis. And a lot of people are seeing seeing the importance of working towards more self-sufficiency. I know during the pandemic, it brought me comfort that I had chickens who were laying eggs every day, and I had a raw milk source, and I know how to make bread. So if worse came to worse, my family wouldn't starve to death if Trader Joe's never restocked. We'd be okay for a little while, at least until I ran out of chicken feed, I guess, but they do eat bugs too. So I just think it got us all thinking, and I read a statistic at one point that said something like 2 million people left the city between 2020 and 2022. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. I don't think we should abandon our cities, but none of us could ignore the fact that we are vulnerable and we need to be able to take care of ourselves and our families. And it's important to know how to grow food and be self-sustaining. And that's really an art form that's been lost in the past couple of generations that people are starting to get back to as a result of this wake-up call. While it's totally possible to homestead in the city, if you're looking to head more towards a completely off-grid lifestyle, you're going to need more space to grow food and have animals than you'll find in an urban homestead. So it's a valid reason for some people to move out of the city blocks and into a more suburban location where there's more garden space and room for chickens. Or if you want more acreage, you're looking at having livestock and things like that. But it's also important to remember that there's a lot of responsibility and expense involved when you're thinking more large scale with acreage and livestock. In Colorado, water is a major concern for our state. So if you're supporting livestock or agriculture on a bigger scale, you have to make sure you have the water rights to do so, and you have to make sure you have a well that's producing enough water to support the size of your family and things like that. So there's a lot of thought that needs to go into making the decision to leave the city for a more sustainable lifestyle. If you are thinking you're ready to make that leap though, reach out to me and let's talk about it. We can look at your budget, what kind of lifestyle you're hoping to achieve, and then figure out what's best: an urban homestead, a suburban homestead, or a mountain homestead. I'm here to help, so call, text, or email me. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.